Back to the retreat. So right understanding leads to right thinking. And principles to employ, I would use the word employ, rather than just have them as a sort of understanding. If we had an examination today, Buddhism 101, and at the end of the day, what are the three types of tanha? And you gave me bhava, vibhava, and kama tanha, big deal. You'd have a high school understanding. And this is very interesting how, I know one of my Sri Lankan friends, I've known many, many years, she said she got an A+ in high school Buddhism, but she didn't have a clue of the contemplative life, isn't it? And that's very, very common. So what we're trying to do is we're not here to get more information, and that is a kind of fallacy that I think exists in the contemplative life. The more information you have, somehow the better. Where I think actually the more information you have, the more confused you get. If you read a lot of complex Abhidhamma or commentary on this and that, I think it actually makes you more confused because you just start to think more. Whereas if you just take like some people say, well, that's just the Four Noble Truths, that's the beginners. No, you have to do it for a lifetime. You look at Lompo Sumedo, and he is an intelligent man. He's very, very well read, and he's worked with the Four Noble Truths for 55 years, and he keeps teaching that way. So there is breadth of information, but there is also depth of understanding, and that comes by using, I think, these basic principles again and again and again and again, and so you get reminded of them again and again and again. So these three types of tanha, you want to get them to be words that make sense within your own makeup, how you function in the world. So how does bhava work for you? Bhava tanha, how does it? So for me, as a young monk, and I think maybe most meditators have that, I was looking for some insight experience. So I'd be meditating, trying to see, I thought I had to have some kind of experience, either of bliss, piti, or insight. So I was looking for the anicca insight, kind of searching for the anicca insight, and I didn't see that itself was bhava. Right? It was me trying to get something which I had defined as insight, and then, okay, I've got to get this insight. Where is this insight? Okay. Anicca insight, where's anicca? Something, it's not so ridiculous, but if I don't diagnose that, then actually that looking for something is the problem. That is the problem. And so I eventually saw that and said, oh no, it's about non-becoming. Oh, it's non-becoming. So I saw that. I could apply then the ideas of bhava into my own mind, into my own practice, according to my own conditioning. So bhava for me wasn't to become a deva or to become a millionaire, that's for sure. But rather it was about my own misunderstandings of how to do the work. And then vibhava, as I think around the fear issues, I could see that I didn't want the fear, which was logical. Who wants this garbage into your mind, right? But until I actually saw that the problem was not the fear, it was the vibhava tanha, I never got anywhere. So that's my insights, and in other ways too, that is my insight around bhava and vibhava. How does it work for you, right? Where is that? Where is that in your own mind? And the beauty of this work with the Four Noble Truths is that what's always available is your own suffering, your own discontent, your own whatever it is. It's always there. It's not, you don't have to look for discontent. The mind produces it because of wrong understanding. So if you make that your testing ground, your laboratory, say, your laboratory of where you're going to understand yourself, then you just start, well, it's like this. And then if there's a feeling of discontent, you say, oh, discontent feels like this. And you begin to observe it in real time. What does it feel like? Discontent, where is it? How does it arise? You don't even talk about it. And then you're actually practicing with the way things are. If, however, you've read a lot about what you should get, which we have a lot, don't we, in Theravada, and what we should attain, and who we should be or who we shouldn't be, then you get all confused because you're really not looking at the way things are. We're looking at ideas of how things should be, idealism, or we're coming from perceptions of a retreat we did last year where we had some bliss, we're trying to repeat that, or we read about Lompa Liam and his enlightenment experience, we're trying to get that in many, many ways. And all those historical perceptions can really block the simplicity of, well, it's like this. So coming back to that is actually incredibly profound, returning to that again and again and again. So with I used to row at U of T and high school, rowing, eight men pulling backwards, trying to get forwards, and one guy steering. I used to do that on Lakeshore, from the Argonaut Rowing Club to the Humber River, and then back again. And we do that in the autumn, in the mornings before work, before studies, before school, before classes. And and the coach was one of the teachers, and he was in a motorboat, a little outboard motor, and he would have a megaphone, and then he would coach us as we were rowing. So he would call out to number 4, if you pull harder, or set it up, or okay, let's do 20 hard, things like that. So you had this coach with a megaphone kind of encouraging us and coaching us, and then yelling at us, and then, the way coaches are. And in many ways, I think that's what we are doing for ourselves with right understanding and right thought. It's like we're making suggestions to ourselves about how to be in this world. Obviously around Sila, if you're in a work situation and someone in work is suggesting some kind of corrupt behavior, the megaphone in your own head should be saying, don't do it. This is dangerous, Sila, right? But in meditation, it's these, like, suggesting to yourself, the voice, using right thought to make suggestions to bring you balance, to bring you relaxation, to bring you more energy, depending on where you're at. So if you're dull and sleepy, then there goes the door. Then you might need a megaphone to kind of, like with sleepiness, you need a lot of energy for sleepiness. You need to, if you're chronically dull, and some people are, then you need to stop doing whatever you're doing. You need to stop meditating because your meditation has become ridden with sloth and torpor. Just it's not working. And so that's a very vigorous kind of thing you need to do. So you need to breathe 10 times more than you are probably. You need to keep your eyes open. It needs to be very coarse. You need to open your chest, open your heart, and you need to really work at it in a very fierce way. But if your mind is just slightly drifting, but it's fairly stable, all you need is to make a suggestion. Don't go there. And that might be enough for the whole sitting. You don't have to make much effort. You don't need the megaphone. You just need the right kind of suggestion. And each of you can only know that for yourselves. I think if you use some, like I find this use of one of the words I really like is availability. Availability. Because when I'm preoccupied with thought and planning and past and future, I'm not available to the unconditioned, because I'm in the conditioned, I'm in the foreground. So when you present language, at least for me, when I present myself with language like availability, it's not an ego demand, that you should do this or that. It's more like, well, it's like curious. What would availability feel like? And then I see availability would feel like this if I don't attach to anything. So if I say to myself, just sitting, availability, then my senses are still operating, but there's silence. There's silence. Because I'm not preoccupied. I'm not caught in thought. I'm not judging you. I'm not thinking about the roof on the temple or whatever it is. So just that, and this is the more subtle part of meditation. Sometimes the kilesas are very coarse, and you just have to work with them. But oftentimes it's not that case. But what we fail to do is return to silence. We can be muttering at a half-conscious level, thinking to ourselves, but oftentimes we don't touch the space of no thought, or the space between thoughts, and that's incredibly valuable. So when I say to myself, availability, I have to be very attentive, to really listen. But I'm not trying to get anything. I'm not trying to get silence by getting rid of thought. No, I'm just availability. And there's the stillness. And once you touch that background stillness, then you say, okay, I think I'll stay a while. This is becoming the theme of the retreat. Stay a while. Because it's where you find fulfillment in that. You won't find fulfillment in experience. You find sweetness and sourness and happiness and excitement, and that's the realm of experience, which is fine. But you won't find fulfillment. You find fulfillment in non-desire. Think about it. Non-desire has to be the place of freedom, because you don't want anything. As long as our intention in life is based upon only based upon pain and pleasure, we can never be free. Because pain is not permanent, pleasure is not permanent, changing all the time. So it can't possibly be. We're not dismissing, I'm not saying that, the food at breakfast time, put on 2 tons of salt so everyone finds an unpleasant meal. We're not doing that. We're not saying that pleasant, we have to get rid of it. It's not in Christian ideas, sensuality is quite often portrayed as wrong, evil, something like that. Not necessarily evil, but it's wrong to enjoy yourself. We're not saying that. Joy is joy, sensuality is sensuality. It's just saying that cannot be where Nibbana lies. It cannot be. Logically, it cannot be. Because it changes, and that's why we emphasize change so much. But we emphasize change not just as being good Buddhists. Because as good Buddhists, we're saying that all the time, aren't we? Oh, it's all changing, Bhante. Well, of course it is. It doesn't take a Buddha to figure that out. But the reason we point to the changing is because there is the unchanging. And if we don't get that, we only get half of Buddhism. So everyone says, oh, the weather's changing. Oh, wow, that's really wise. Right? You're a genius. The weather's changing. Have you got a PhD? But that's not, it's not about that. It's don't go to the changing so that you can discover the unchanging. That's the point of it. So then if you take, say, the rigor of Luang Cha's instruction to us, if you read that big book behind me right now, we read it every winter. I think we've gone through it 4 times now. It's great. It's a great read. So if you go through his teaching, you see that what he's constantly saying is it's uncertain, right? Constantly. So that's different than saying all of life is uncertain as a kind of philosophical statement you make as a good Buddhist every 2 hours. He's doing it like every second, all the time. And the result of that is non-attachment, non-grasping, or the silence of presence. When we were moving from London to Chithurst, Luang Por Chah was with us, and there was a gentleman there who was thinking of being part of our community. He was older. He wasn't really in the Sangha. He was into gardening and so on. Second World War vet, and had some pretty strong views. And I thought, this guy's going to be troublesome, maybe. I'm not sure. This is going to be a good idea. So Luang Por Chah was there, this man was there. I said to Luang Por, what do you think of this man? You think he's going to be good in our community? He said, it's uncertain. I said, what? You know everything. It was obvious, huh? And I said, it's uncertain. He wouldn't buy into me getting a fixed perception on this. And I thought, okay, so if I do that with my opinions, my perceptions, my judgments. Now, obviously, if you are an accountant or you are a engineer, you have to make certain decisions. You can't say to your boss, the balance sheet is uncertain. You're in trouble. So, but the Bhante said, he said it's uncertain. That's not what we're pointing to. As meditators, as contemplatives, that tendency to take a position and know things as they are tends to kind of solidify life. Whereas if you come back, well, it's uncertain. Life is this way. It's uncertain. It takes you to the background. It takes you to silence. How are you feeling? Oh, I feel terrible today. It's uncertain. And you go to the background. Where, like, if you wake up and feel terrible, have a coffee and an aspirin, whatever you need. But if you take that mood of terribleness and then you start to make that real, you'll think terrible thoughts, won't you? It's terrible, terrible. Why did I come here? I don't want to be here. Oh God, I haven't got a car. I have to stay here. You're reborn into a terrible world, right? But if you have a mood of terribleness, and is there such a thing as a terrible mood? you awaken to that. You say, oh, terrible feels this way. It's uncertain. Then it can come up, but you don't get reborn as that. You don't create a sense of self around that. And that's the idea is the ahankara mimamkara, I making, my making. You don't produce a sense of self around it. It's just a mood. It comes and it goes. And much of our life, as opposed to the fearful impulses I had, which are very, very intense, much of our life is just little moods coming and going. They're no big deal. There's some memory trace of a movie you've seen, or someone said something to you, or a childhood memory. They're no big deal, but we can get reborn into them very easily through thinking, through wrong thinking, through I thinking, my thinking. So having a kind of watchful eye on the moods of the mind and what they're creating in terms of thinking is very important. You are not your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You're the awareness that knows thinking. And that's obviously so important, So right when you get up in the morning, it's so important to say, it's like this. It's uncertain. So you might say, oh, what a great day. It's uncertain. Oh, what a terrible day. It's uncertain. And that takes you back to silence. And silence is neither certain or uncertain. It has no real, it just is. It just is the way it is. And it's always there. It's always there. So try to notice, like when you get up, like when you wake up, what's the habit of mind in waking? If your job is not very, is not very interesting or rewarding, it might be, oh God, another day. When is Friday? Or if it's really fraught with difficulties, you might be anxious, and so on and so forth. And so you right from the get-go, you're awakening to the way things are. It's like this, and you save yourself so much suffering when you don't believe in the moods of the mind. So much suffering all around thinking. If you have self-doubt or you're very critical or very judgmental, those are just bad habits. That's all they are. It's not who you are. But they can be very believable, very, very believable. If you have children, you're anxious about your children. It's natural to be anxious about your children, but that's not who you are either. It doesn't mean you're indifferent to your children's welfare, no. But the sense of self that's created around all these different things, you're watching, but it's like this, it's uncertain. Then you're very adaptable, actually. You're very adaptable because you're present. Finally, I find that if I can just use like one word and then notice the silence afterwards. I said that earlier. So I quite often just use the word I. And then what's afterwards? It's the silence of presence. You could use uncertain. But I think the main thing is that what happens after the word? What is the space after the word? What is the silence after the word? And if you do that a lot, then you keep touching the silence and space of the mind, and you'll find that's a nice place to stay a while. And you find that very attractive in a way which is not based on greed anymore, not based on desire. It's based on a realization, an understanding. Then desire falls away because you found your real home. Desire still has its needs. You still need to be comfortable and you need to eat and so on and so forth. But you find that, that's where desire is fulfilled. Not in objects, but in the letting go to the silence of the mind. That's the theory. So let's try that, some of those ideas. With the metta bhavana that I did earlier, there's so many ways to do that. That's just one way to do it. But if you do metta bhavana, it's very helpful. And if you can get metta to be actually, those are lovely windows, aren't they? I just never noticed how big they were. Nice and spacious. I never noticed how big those windows were. Anyway,
is it too windy?
No, I like it. Yeah, I like it. Like I see that awareness and metta are really more and more one thing. Because metta, to really be with life, you have to include all of it. The good, bad, and the ugly. Anger is natural. Fear is natural. Love is natural. Hate is natural. Feelings of betrayal, natural. Feelings of loyalty, they're all part of nature. Right? There's not, obviously you don't follow them, but you have to accept them. So if you have some feelings which seem unacceptable, no, they're just a part of nature. But you don't have to follow them. And I think that's the bigger idea around metta bhavana, that includes all things. So, as Lompa would say, it's like this, and it all belongs. It's like this, and it all belongs. And then you act according to dana and sila from that. That's where I think you find your freedom. All right, let's do some sitting. Stretch your legs. Our lads have come back. I don't think they went to the pub. I think they're all right. So we'll just wait till they come in and sit some more. Okay. So I'll play around with some of those words again. Okay, availability. And that, of course, is synonymous with non-preoccupation. the non-becoming. You're not looking for something. You're trying to know what is non-becoming. And then non-resistance. And notice how that takes you to silence. Notice the silence. It's always there. The end of thought. So now introduce one thought, just the thought I. And notice the silence. Again, say the word I. And notice the silence, even within the sound of people coming into the room. So there's the sound of movement, and there's the silence of awareness. So listen. So welcome sound. Let it come to you. And notice the silence of no thought. So you still have the sound of the fan. Someone might be moving. That's not the silence we're talking about. It's not the silence of circumstance. It's the silence of awareness. Availability. Non-preoccupation. It's like this. Awareness. Now let's explore awareness. Does awareness have a center? Can you find a thing that is aware? A self that is aware? A fixed thing. When I do that, there's just awareness, there's just silence. Not a someone being aware, just awareness itself, silence itself. Is there a center? Is there an outer boundary to awareness? Is it like the room, the walls of the room? Can you find an outer boundary or limit to awareness? I can't. It's neither centered nor is it bounded. It just is. Now perceive sound of the fan, as in awareness. Rather than I'm sitting here, the fan is above me. Just see that that whole perception is in awareness. So it's like, awareness is like conscious space. Now feel your hands, tactile sensations of your hands. and perceive hands as in awareness. Not my hands as a concept, just tactile sensations in awareness. Then go back to sound. Notice the changing nature of sound in awareness. And then feel your hands, tactile sensations in awareness. Move between the two. Physical sensation, sound, that's changing. And then what's unchanging? What's unchanging? Well, it can't be an object. It has to be awareness itself. Back to sound. Notice the changing nature of sound. And then be the unchanging awareness. Be awareness itself. So this is your real home. Stay a while. So you could just, for the whole meditation, just abide as awareness, as witness to the changing nature of sense consciousness. But if you feel a bit restless or scattered, then you could go to the breath, go to the heart, and cultivate metta. But understand how to remember this awareness. It's not an experience that you're getting. It's something that's always there. And experiences come and go. And you are awareness itself. Okay, I'll leave that with you. Play around with that. availability. So practice through the 5.